everybody, welcome back to my movie review series. Today we'll be discussing Speed 2 Cruise Control. Just finished watching it. This is the sequel to the first movie Speed with Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock. You know how we do it. Overall impressions are great. After the grade, if you've not seen the movie, based off of the logistics and my brief overview, you're going to shut off the video. There will be spoiler alerts. We'll be discussing the plot synopsis and character development, and any similar movies or major themes. So, again, this Speed 2 Cruise Control is released in 1997, is rated PG-13, and is an action/romance movie. It has a runtime of an hour and 50 minutes. You can watch it for free on Tubi. I watched it on Hulu. It says Annie, played by Sandra Bullock, is looking forward to a Caribbean cruise with her cop boyfriend Alex, played by Jason Patric, who purchased the tickets to make up for lying about working on the SWAT team. Their trip turns dangerous, however, when an explosion disables the ship's communication system. It becomes clear that the vessel is under someone else's control. Alex and Annie must fight for survival as they discover that John Geiger, played by William Dafoe, a crazed passenger, is behind the chaos. At $110 million for the budget, $165 million at the box office, directed by Jean de Bon. I think. It looks like a Dutch name. I don't know Dutch. But 63% liked it on Google, 23% on TV Guide, a whopping 4% liked it on Rotten Tomatoes, and 3.9 out of 10 on IMDb. Google says it's nail-biting, intense, and passionate. It is not nail-biting, intense, or passionate. So what did I think of the movie? I did not like this one. I thoroughly enjoyed, I'll say, I forget what I gave Speed 1, but I don't know, in the entertaining range. But this was a sequel that definitely did not need to be made. I thought the plot was extremely dull, extremely redundant. I thought the romance was extremely non-existent. The characterizations were pretty much all off-putting. So I do not recommend this one. I'm going to give it all the way down to a D+. And so I don't necessarily call it off-putting, but it was just like, if I was not making a movie a day content, then I would not have picked this movie pretty much ever. And so, big fan of Sandra Bullock, big fan of William Dafoe. This movie was an absolute miss. So D+, I don't recommend this one, but if you would like to, regardless, you want to rush off the video, there will be spoiler alerts. Movie opens up, he meets Alex Shaw. He is in this high-speed chase, trying to track down a criminal, and the criminal's in this ice cream truck, and so he's on a motorcycle, is chasing him down. His superior is giving him like no stunts, no craziness. So Alex is, kind of a bad boy. I'm going to go out on my own in terms of law and do the right thing. At the same time, you meet Annie Porter, but I do believe from the first movie she had lost, the reason she rode the bus in the first place is because she lost her license, and so she's trying to get her license now, or get it reinstated, and so she's in this like yellow kind of weird looking car, and she's doing horribly on the driving test. She's talking about her ex-boyfriends to the driving instructor, and now she's talking about how her current boyfriend Alex is, a patrol dude on the beach for law enforcement, not on the SWAT team. And so regardless, the Alex apprehends the suspect after like they run down a hill, or like kind of fall over a hill or whatever. And he arrests this dude, and at the same time Annie's doing her driving test. She's driving through the same roads that they're chasing this criminal on, and she crashes her car into a police car, and then she learns that Alex is not a part of the beach patrol. So Annie fails her driving test, obviously, and then you have a very unconvincing romance and relationship between Annie and Alex. They talk about how they don't even know each other. She doesn't know his badge number, and that they don't really know each other very well or something. In a very unconvincing writing fashion. But Alex busts out this Caribbean cruise, and Annie's like, I don't think a cruise is going to fix it, but regardless, they go on the cruise. So they start boarding the ship, the next day or next week or whatever. They meet this photographer named Dante. He's just, a leisure dude, worker who takes pictures and charges you if you want to buy them. And so he's taking pictures, meeting everybody. And Annie and Alex go to their room. They meet, in passing, they meet John Geiger, the William Dafoe character, and he's complaining to the manager that his golf clubs have not shown up yet. And so they change into their bathing suits, go out into the common area, get some drinks, and then they see Annie and John talk for a little bit. Alex makes a comment about it, and then Alex is like, he clearly isn't that into golf. The Players' Championship's on. He's not even watching the tournament. but then, just some bad writing premonition about the golf club. There's something relevant to the plot. And so, regardless, they go to a show that night, and Alex is about to propose to Annie, which again makes no sense in terms of the development of the romance, going from we don't know each other really well, so let's just go on a cruise one night, then I'm going to propose. No thanks. And so regardless, he's messing around with his ring, he's not sure if he's going to propose or not. They go to this dinner, they meet a deaf girl named Drew. Alex knows some sign language, so he's able to communicate with her, makes a bond with her. And right as he's kind of like about to propose, he says he feels sick, and he's getting seasick, and he actually does get seasick, but he just wants to go back to the room. And so the next morning he wakes up and there's a barf bag next to the bed, and Annie's still asleep, and he goes out skeet shooting for a little bit. So at the same time, on the second day, John Geyer gets his golf clubs, and he starts setting up, he unscrews the heads of the golf clubs, and it's some sort of technology and different kind of smoke devices and bombs or whatever. And so he does that, and then he goes, John stumbles in acting all drunk, and he plants these golf balls that are just like bombs or smoke detectors or something, smoke bombs or something with sulfur. But he puts them in different places around the ship, and then he goes acting all extremely intoxicated. He plants like a transmitter in this like control room, extremely unconvincing. Like he literally stumbles into like the ship, the captain's area, acting all drunk with a big transponder, just puts it under the desk, and so nobody notices. But again, very not convincing movie, just all around. And so regardless, that happens. And then the next day or that night, he kind of approaches the captain, and they're on the outside of the ship. He kind of like swings this light at him a little bit, and he ends up hitting him a little bit. And you get the same kind of thing. John says, I worked for this company for X amount of years, and then they just fired me and got rid of me when I got sick, which is pretty much the exact same plot line as the first one, where the dude had his hand deficient and now he makes bombs and he's going to stick it to the people that fired him. So you could have switched up the motivation of the criminality a little bit, but of course they didn't. And so he is he's mad about being fired, being sick. He has like these leeches that he thinks like sucks the poison out of their blood. But some alternative medicine going on, and he knocks Captain Pollard off of the ship. And so Captain Pollard dies, again PG-13, nothing's gory in this movie, but he's thrown off the ship and dies. And now, he had also like incapacitated, or just like one of the like handmaids of the ship comes into his room and had do not disturb and sees all of his equipment set up, and he knocks him out and puts him in the closet. You don't really know if he's dead or not until later when he pops back out of the closet. But he does do that to the ship, the dude cleaning the sheets. And so now he's got like a captain's garb, and yeah, but pretty much then they're going back. There's a show going on, and they start showing this jewelry, maybe for rich people to buy, multi-million-dollar jewelry collection or whatever. But then John calls into the captain's thing. He overtakes the cruise control, or just like the autopilot of the ship during that night. And now he's completely in control of the ship's functions. And so the next day he calls into the head dude. I think his name is Harvey or Giuliano. So he's now the master of the ship, captain of the ship, because Captain Pollard is dead. He's like, John tells Giuliano that, and so Giuliano's like, Alex is like, you need to evacuate the ship now. He's like, I'm going to set off bombs here, here, and here. And then he has these sulfur smoke bombs or something go off. And so during this showing of this these jewelry and this evening show on a cruise ship, these bombs start going off, and they order the evacuation. And so again, Alex, being the police officer character, he keeps saying something about sulfur, and that doesn't make sense, that maybe they're not real bombs or something. But regardless, you have a lot of screaming of people again trying to get on these dinghy ships to be saved. They start getting on the ship, and then they start getting off of the ship, and then it's a big, long, drawn-out thing. Annie's characterization again is off-putting. She's just kind of like an aloof woman, and it's just did absolutely nothing for me. But I don't know, 15-minute scene of them getting on this buoy or dinghy, then getting back off because it starts tipping over. Some people fall off, and the rest get back on the main ship through the drawbridge, and Alex is not convinced that they actually have bombs going off. And so regardless, now they're back on the main ship, and he's going to go try to find also the deaf family of Drew's parents. We're not sure if she's on the ship or not, and she is stuck in like an elevator shaft on the ship, on the main ship. But you learn about that later, or I guess that resolves later. But they get back on the ship, and now he's basically Alex is just kind of like asserting himself into the authority of the ship crew. You know, he's an LA cop, and now he's jurisdiction in the Bahamas or something. You get a comment like that later, but this just was not convincing. And so while everyone's evacuating the ship, John Geiger has taken all of the jewelry and put it into a bag. And so Alex gets a shotgun from the arms on deck and tries to go start to find him, as well as they hear people that's like trapped somewhere in the lower ends of the ship. And so Annie and Dante go down there. They're able to use a chainsaw to cut them free. A bunch of smoke was going to the room, so they're all taking their clothes off. PG-13, trying to stop the smoke, but they're able to cut them free. Another just off-putting scene. She literally, Annie cuts through the door, and then she's like, come on through. And they're like, we can't come through. You're standing right there with a chainsaw. And she's like, what? And so it's just like, who wrote that? But regardless, they save those people, and they go back up to the kind of the top of the ship. And Alex starts chasing John through the ship. And so John has control of all of the doors, automated and whatnot. And so he's able to get away from Alex for a little bit. Another off-putting scene is he's like controlling just like a projection setup. And John's face is on it, and Alex just keeps shooting it with a shotgun. It's like, clearly that's just a projection, brother. And so regardless, he's chasing John throughout the ship. And then he sees John has basically rigged the ship to go directly into land. He then later turns it to go directly into an oil tanker. And so the ship captains and ship people are trying to slow down the ship. And as well, John has also disabled the communication so they can't call ahead or call whoever. And so Alex goes there to Juliano and is like, we need to slow down the ship any way possible. And he was like, they basically decide they're going to flood the ship. Because they try to drop anchors or whatever, but they're going to flood the ship. And so when they do that, or try to do that, Alex sees that Drew is stuck in the area which would be flooded. So he tells them to stop that. They kind of try to stop it as well, but they can't really do it that easily. And so Alex is able to go down there, saves Drew, gets them all back up on the broadside of the ship. And then Alex rescues Drew. John then switches the direction from going directly into land into this oil tanker, and so somehow they know that he's still on the ship. And so kind of the next thing they try to do is they're going to try to, and it's in a very similar fashion to the first one, they're going to go under the ship and try to jam up the propeller. And so Alex agrees to go in there. Before he jumps in the water, he tells Annie his badge number in the corniest fashion ever. Dante is also running around helping a little bit. He's kind of with Annie for a bit when they're cutting those people free. And so Alex jumps under the ship. They start feeding it this wire. It jams up the propeller pretty well. And then John reappears back on the where they're letting this cable down and cuts off the cable. And this big metal thing flies off and breaks Juliano's arm and knocks him into the water. Alex is able to kind of grab onto him or save him. And then he's trying to get out of the water when John appears behind Annie and puts a gun to her, and he's telling Annie, let them go drown. And so Annie lets them go, and then as John's dragging her away, she's able to press a button so it starts reeling them back in again. And so both Alex and Juliano are safe. And Juliano's arm's broken. He kind of pats him on his arm again. Another just cheesy scene. But now John has left the ship with Annie as hostage on this a smaller boat, but it's carrying two jet ski. It has two jet ski ports on it, and so maybe just a combined jet ski operation thing. But regardless, he is now off of the main ship, driving with Annie as hostage with the diamonds and a gun. And so the ship is going directly towards the oil tanker. Alex is able to get to the basement and turn some lever so that the ship turns a little bit at least, and so they make a collision, but they just scrape by each other, and so everyone on the oil tanker ship, I think, has abandoned ship already, or they do shortly. But now after they're happy that they've got away from the big ship, but now they're heading directly inland with a bunch of smaller boats, and as well as just the land itself. And so another scene where the little kid sitting there by the window, like, "Mommy, look, there's a big boat coming." She's like, "Yeah, I know, son. There's a lot of big boats." But another little action sequence, it crushes some boats. People are jumping out, and then it goes ashore and it slowly grinds to a halt, and again comically stops. Like, there's a bell, like a big Liberty Bell type thing, but somewhere in the Caribbean, and just like pokes the bell and rings it, and so does damage to everywhere. Again, PG-13 movie. But then the tip kind of decides to tip over a little bit. It doesn't completely fall on its side, but braces against buildings or whatever. And so now they're finally docked. And so Alex now needs to go rescue Annie. He commandeers a boat. Again, that's when you get here in the Caribbean, who cares about the LAPD? But he takes Harvey's boat, I believe. I think that's Harvey. It doesn't matter. But another kind of minor character. He's on a date with a Caribbean lady, and he takes the boat and starts going real fast. And so Annie had dropped John's jet ski port open, so he falls back on a jet ski and she's still driving. But John catches back up with her, and now they get into a little small plane, and so they start trying to take off. Alex catches back up with this boat that he commandeered and shoots a harpoon into the water landing of a small aircraft, and reels himself in, which is extremely unbelievable, being able to hold on to that through the water. But gets onto the ship, literally says hi to Annie, like, "Oh, how you doing?" And then, "Oh, hi to you, John," and starts punching him in the face. And so Annie and Alex are able to knock off one of those small aircraft things where they land on water. One of those things knocks it off, and now William Dafoe's character John is going to fly away. So now John's been distracted, and he's not raised the plane high enough, and he crashes into just some high-rise thing on that oil tanker. And so he's Harvey, or whoever the minor character is that pulls him up onto their boat, it's we got to get out of here. And so they get away just in time as John Geiger is laughing hysterically as he's going down, and then the oil tanker ignites and it explodes. And so that's kind of the resolution to John's character. And then as they're riding back in this boat, the kind of resolving scenes are Alex giving Annie the ring and being like, "You want to wear this for about," and she's like, "How long?" "For about 50 years. And so I guess they get married at the end of the movie. And so that's pretty much the resolution. Overall, it was off-putting. All the characterizations were just super, super juvenile and super, super just was like, why was this script ever approved for anything? Probably for the success. And like I said, I enjoyed it. I thought the Speed 1 was in the entertaining range. Speed 2 definitely not. So overall, not entertaining to me. Actively off-putting. Could just be a blah movie, but I thought just the characterizations were bad. So again, similar movies. Speed 1, major themes, nothing. Bad romance and bad action flick. So overall, D+. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.